See if anybody's there.
Okay.
I don't even know if anybody's here. I know that we restarted and we're going to go for a few more minutes and see if anybody else has any other questions. Apparently, today is not the day to be doing this. Somebody thought we had a troll in the chat.
And that
And
was Bill. What did he say?
he said that you were really a good distance healer and da 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 da, and that between your work and Dr. Gale's, that his whole life had changed. So,
And they thought he was a troll.
Juno's back. Kathy G's back. I am so sorry. I have never had that happen to me. My whole computer shut down, guys. Carolyn Marquise is here. Okay, for those of you who want to know, at the very end of this, I have listed who the winners are. I've also sent emails to all the people who won. They either won a free grid, a garden. I gave away 2 gardens and a couple crystals out of my crystal stash. Oh, good. I'm back. Yes. Like a bad penny. No, don't say that. And the person y'all thought, someone thought was a troll, he's one of my oldest friends. Thank you. So I'm going to go into sort of where I connected with Kathy on some of this stuff. She sent me a couple of podcasts she'd been on explaining kind of where she was going. And what struck me is when she talked about if you took all of Fascia out, it's this sort of network that's near you, that's inside of you, and but you could take it out and the world would still, I mean, the person would still be there whole because there's not that much in the fascia, but it's like a network.
Yeah, it's like a big 3-dimensional spider web.
Oh, okay. Someone else was trying to break in. That's what, and somebody saw it and stopped it. Thank you. Okay. I'll tell Mr. Bill you didn't think he was a troll. He's not. He's one of my oldest friends.
Okay.
But when you talked about how fascia spreads out through the body and how you kind of began to see the energy work you were doing, reaching out into the energy with the fascia, I felt like that's what I see with my crystals, with the crystal
Yeah.
grids, how they work together.
Yeah, you're slowing down too.
Okay, no, it said Lenovo's looking at the problem. Stay the hell out of it. Let me get my show done. Jeez.
Yeah. So anyway, they've done some research with fascia, and fascia is like all the membranes, so every cell membrane, every wrapping around a muscle. It's like a giant 3-dimensional spider web, and it's also known as the organ of form. So if you removed everything except the fascia, you'd still have a person there. But it's a liquid crystal. So if you really think about it, crystals are like a structural thing, lots of lines, straight lines. But if you turn that liquid, what kind of properties does that have? So it's like back and forth between like a particle or a wave. Which one is it? And so I think the fascia is the crystalline structure that connects to all the crystals in the earth and all the crystals out there. And so we're just in the middle.
Well, see, I always think of crystals that they communicate with each other, kind of like, if you've ever seen the neurons in your brain, they don't quite touch. And that chemicals, another element, something else that's not them, it's not hardwired, it's kind of soft wired. And that's always kind of view the energy flowing between the crystals.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Gina, he trust me, even if you thought he was a troll, he wouldn't be offended. But I want to point out that I hope it's below, but if you didn't see it, I'm going to just post it on my community board. Sheila and I did a show on high and low vibrations because I've been studying a lot of that, working with dowsing. And it all came from a story I heard about in Dallas where QAnon people are disappearing and their families are coming to Texas to try and find them and they can't find them. And so now, I was talking to Sheila about it, but we didn't have I knew it was going on. There wasn't anything published, okay? So she and I were talking about doing a thing just about cults and about lower vibration. And so just before we did the show, Rachel Maddow did a segment on the missing QAnons. So it was now public. Now people knew out in the real world. If you didn't have to live in Dallas to have heard this story. And since I hate spreading urban legends, I was glad she had that bit. But anyway, if you go and look on Sheila's site, and I put the link below, we talk about the neuroreceptors that fire us up and which ones are good that come out of like meditation and which ones make you want more, are addictive, like dopamine's addictive, serotonin's not. Anyway, I found all this information, handed it over to Sheila. She did a brilliant job of finding all the stuff to illustrate it, which does it much better than my talk. But we came up with a show about raising your vibrations and why being with low vibration people can make your life more difficult. But for those of you who have a family member or a friend or someone close to you, the MSNBC is running a series right now on their podcast called American Radicals, and it explains how people get radicalized. And the woman who's at the center of it, as I understand it, got radicalized out of Georgia because she was isolated at home, only saw YouTube stuff, got on the wrong channel, got started being told things, and before she knew it, she believed things that in her normal state of mind she wouldn't have believed. Anyway, they talked to her friends and her family and how people tried to deal with it. Ahmed Modine is doing the show. It's one of the #1 podcasts on Apple right now. So if you're facing that problem of someone with lower vibrations, you might want to go watch or listen to it and get some hints, because they have ways. Because he said we can't write off this much of America. We just can't say, well, we're just not going to deal with them. I mean, they're here, and we got to figure out a way to deal with them, not letting them destroy the country, but how to really deal with it. So that's another thing that concerns me when I deal about vibration, is that people need to understand we have gone through significant change. It started in 2018 when our whole solar system moved out of protective cloud that had kept a lot of subatomic particles from breaking in. It used to be really hard to find these subatomic particles. They knew they were there, but they used to have to build these shafts in these places, and they'd maybe get one in a year. And now they're all over the place. And it's because this cloud went away that was shielding us from them. And it was something that was out in the galaxy, in the space, that was protecting us. So in 2018, it went away. And then, because I deal with crystals, I'd watch some people do stories on stones. And they said that every 12 to 13,000 years, as far back as they can get, like 70, 80 plus thousand years ago, there's a spot where some sort of wave of energy came over the planet, and it actually changed the molecular structures of the rocks. They think about that. It changed the molecular structure of the rocks. So now we're sitting here, and he's, okay. Okay, and somebody's talking about she has, Liza says she has a friend who survived Jonestown. Must be interesting. But they were wondering, and so all of a sudden last January, the first of these power waves, and the way they sort of portray it among the scientists, it's like a wave of energy that hits the planet. We've had 3 of them hit us this year. And if they change the molecular structure of rocks, think about what that's doing to your DNA.
Yeah, it was changing rocks, it's changing tissue.
And so I started watching this, and there's a guy named Rory Duff, and I've talked about him before, and Danny and I actually did a whole show on his study of frequencies and ley lines, and he's made a whole study of this. And a question came up because I was working with a woman whose daughter had gotten COVID, and she was a distance healer like you, and she could go in and kind of work through the body. She went in to clear her daughter of what was left of the COVID. She said it was ugly. It was stuff stuck to her all over inside. It was just really gross. But when she went in the woman's brain, she said it was like icky, sticky spider webs had it totally encased her brain, and she had to pull it off a bit at a time, and it took her an hour. Can you imagine doing energy healing? I mean, she said, but she was told by her guides, you can't leave. If you
Wow.
leave, you won't get back in. So she went, she had the goop in her hand. She had the energy in her hand that she pulled out of her daughter. And whatever she practices, she throws it to the earth. She throws it to Gaia to purify. But when she started to do that, she was outside. It said, no, no, throw it up. She went up and they to the sky. So she tossed it to the sky and watched it go, and it went poof, and it disappeared. So her question to me, she called me specifically to say, did aliens bring us COVID?
Oh.
That's, it's not of this earth. But, the first thing my guide screamed at me was, no, it wasn't aliens. I didn't have to lift a card to figure that one out. But what I came to understand it was, which was the next day, I had the flash look at Rory's work again. And it's that energy that's coming at us that's changing things, and that's what made this COVID. We knew we were going to possibly have another bad respiratory virus, but that's what's made this one so novel and so unique. So a week or so after I'd been through all that thought process, I was on with Kim Carey, and I asked Kim. She said, do you have a question you want to ask me? And I said, yeah, I have this one question. And her first response was, I said, did aliens have anything to do with this? She said, absolutely not. And then she said, but you know the answer. And I said, yeah, what I sense is it's these power surges that are coming across us that are changing us. They're changing us for better. And in some cases, they're going to screw it up a little bit. It's going to be worse. And more than a little bit. But Kim said, you're right. She said she got her angel bumps all over her body. She said that's the right answer, that it's coming in with this energetic waves. Okay, guys, one more thing. This year, we are going to be getting a lot of photonic energy. We know it's coming towards us. There's no way to avoid it. You're on the planet. It's coming. And when it hits, it's going to be hitting us all of 2022. And then on top of that, and I'm trying to find some more articles, and I'll do a better, longer story about it, but there's a young scientist who's been following these two twin stars, and they're getting closer and closer and closer, and they fully expect it to become a supernova this year. And I don't know if you know about, it's far enough away from it, it's not going to blow us up, but thank God. But it's a supernova, and when supernovas blow, that's like the beginning creation energy of the universe coming together, and it just so we got a lot of interesting energy coming from us.
Yeah, and it's interesting to follow the news about all these things they're discovering about the cosmos. It's like everything's changing. And even our understanding and beliefs are changing about how the universe began, and
Well, if you read or watch any of Joe Dispenza's work, so much of how we heal is our own energy.
Oh yeah. And
And
you gotta go. What I found is to get to where you want to be, you gotta go in.
right.
Because that's what takes you out.
And you have to ditch the bad stories. If there's one thing I would tell people when I read them, you've got a negative story tied to this issue, you have to pull that story out. And he uses a word aware, but you have to be aware. So every time you walk into a new situation and go, oh God, this is just going to be like when I was in the 4th grade and everybody laughed at me. Well, if you carry that story your whole life, you're going to be laughed at for the rest of your life, just like the 4th grade, because your mind is going to pull that in. And if you're aware of it, you go, no, sorry, thank you for sharing, leave. I say that a lot to people. Okay, somebody said that they need the new technology, the MRA, to meet the challenges of COVID-19. In actual,
the new technology
of the mNRA, RNA, not NRA, RNA.
Oh, you mean the vaccination?
Right. But I will tell you guys, the person that someone I thought they were saying he was a troll. He's not a troll. Bill had mRNA treatments 10 years ago.
Oh.
I mean, because I used to use it for really weird, and trust me, he has some odd diseases. I mean, he has just some weird genetic things. And
Uh-huh.
they were using that on him 10 years ago. So, and it's really, they've been doing research on it for 20 years.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, COVID's a new thing, no, it's not. I mean, the vaccine is not. It's not a new technology. It's being used a new way.
Yeah. Um, I think a big opportunity has been missed, though, here is in having people take responsibility for their own health and start
Mm-hmm.
eating better.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think all of our systems in the Western world are a little bit weakened by the kind of food we consume. And if we could go back to clean food.
Well, you can see it. If you go back in 1977, they allowed fructose to be put in food in large amounts. That's the year it started. You can go back. There's a guy named Robert Lustig from the University of California who has talked about how processed foods are poison, and he graphs it. You can see
Yeah.
how as soon as that stuff started being in our food, we all got fat, and that's when I got my extra chubby. Of course, I thought it was because I got pregnant, but it was I don't eat sugar. I don't eat any of that stuff, and like I
You
ate
know,
two pieces of pizza
it,
Sunday, and I've been sick ever since.
yeah, sugar is as addictive or more than heroin,
Mm-hmm.
and it's as bad for you as heroin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just our society doesn't look at it that way. They put baby food. I don't know if it's still anymore, but back in my day, or maybe not when I was a baby, but maybe 10 or 15 years after I was a baby food was 50% sugar. So they get you addicted from birth.
Oh
And what
yeah,
are you
I
supposed to do with that? What,
my
how do people get off sugar?
my
It's hard.
oldest son is 45, and when he was a baby, I I made all his food. I mean, I got a little
Yeah,
blender and
good
I
for you.
whizzed it up. I made everything. I'd get a nice steak, whiz it up. That was meat for, and I put it in freezer cubes. And I ended up in a one woman war with Gerber's. They would call me every week and they would like, well, we do this. And I said, and I'd read from their own standards manual. They allow so many rat hairs per jar of baby food. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, even if you heat the rat
Yeah,
hair up, it's still icky, right? So, yeah, don't get me started. And then, I do keto, but I applaud low carb, and I really think the biggest key to losing weight is intermittent fasting. Pick your 6 to 8 hours you're going to eat, and then just don't eat I mean, you can drink and, have stuff like that, but
yeah,
you just can't eat solid foods. You want to get away from the insulin spikes. And,
yeah.
when I was really, really, really hardcore on that, that's why I lost the 100 pounds. When I started sort of messing around with the timelines, I gained back 8, but they're coming off now. And
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I think, but as a hunter gathering species, we were meant to go hungry.
oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. But snacks are too easy to just pop in your mouth.
Yeah, and that's they trained us to snack. Because I remember when I was a kid,
Yeah.
we didn't snack. If we
Yeah.
got anything, and I never drank it because I kind of have a personal. I'm sure I'm really allergic to milk. I've never been tested for it, but I've never drunk an entire glass of white milk in my life.
Wow.
Um, and I think it's nasty stuff. And actually, according to my father, I'm with like 85% of the world. As soon as you're off mom's milk, this idea of getting cow's milk and stuff is not what they do. I mean, they manufacture into cheese and stuff, but enough about my bodily curiosities. Uh, I don't drink milk, but when I was in school, the only snack you'd get was they bring in little
No.
bottles of milk, and they were little glass bottles of milk because I'm that old, and they would give them out to the kids, and my teacher let me go get a glass of water out of the fountain because she knew they could put it. That thing would turn into critter cheese before I'd touch it, and but and you just didn't snack all day. You just didn't.
No, and we didn't go out to restaurants either. We never went out to
Well,
restaurants.
my unfortunately, my mother, when my dad was working long shifts at the hospital, we were at the hot dog stand, the hamburger stand, but it was like real food. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
until 1977 that everything started getting Oh, somebody else hates milk. Yay, flowing. I'm all for people who hate the same sort of foods I do. But anyway, um, I'm I really wanted to have this conversation, and we are wandering way off the reservation. But in a way, we're not, because when I was a little kid, I said I want milk. I was dealing with my own vibrations. We need to let people
Yeah.
deal with their own bodies and their own vibrations.
Right. And the cleaner your diet is, the more you're going to be able to see clearly and think clearly.
Yeah, and then then you don't. Well, everyone needs a grid. I think every household needs a grid, but that's just my personal.
Right. Oh, and let me tell you something I did with your grid.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a big crystal or rock or something of significance on the outside of my house, in each corner of the outside of my house.
Right, you've got it cornered, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I took the little crystal, the little wand that came to activate the grid, and I went out and I connected all my corners from the outside crystals to the grid in here. So I've got this big, giant bubble around my house that this grid is constantly working
Tied
with.
to.
Yeah.
I've got someone coming on. She was supposed to come on Thursday, but because I've been feeling so hideous and I'm barely crawling through the things I'm doing, I've decided to take a couple days off. I'm going to do my readings. If you have one scheduled, I'll be there, but I'm not doing anything else. And so, but next week I'm going to have on Diana, who bought one of my grids, and she's got this great story. She took a different place in her house. Do you want to be here? No. You want to be here? No.
Oh, how cute.
She finally found the place, and she put some other stones with it. And she has one of my gardens, and she finally fired it up in the middle of the garden with acknowledging she was going to have to move it if she wanted to read the garden. But enough of my Christmas advertising. Although the last 3 grids I built were made as Christmas gifts for loving family members.
Oh.
Just to
Well,
say.
what I did, I took an old clock that I was getting ready to throw away, with a plastic body and everything. So I'm going to make a grid. I'm going to make my own grid with that clock. And just
Okay.
cover over the numbers and then put them, because there's 12,
I've had some people who I've inspired to make grids, and their grids are so much better than mine. I had a woman who found a tree trunk, and then she went to the rock store, and she has about 40 crystals in it, and she starts at the center, and she builds the swirl out. I had another woman that she won a bag of fluorites that I found that I have no idea why I'd bought them, but they're tumbled fluorites. And I said, okay, it was one of those nights. I said, anybody write in, we'll get your name and number and so she did it, and she sent me the picture of the grid she formed out of it and what it is. Anybody can build a grid if they want to. I mean, I've kind of come up with a method that helps people. And as far as I'm concerned, it's like a little engine that could in the corner of your house, and it keeps you aligned. And there is still the one lady who told me she could never get hers to fire up, and it didn't do a damn thing. Then she wrote me back the next day and said, but I haven't done a damn thing either. So I think the grid's found its home. And we're getting more viewers. My God. Okay.
All right. Well,
they're sending me love and light, which is lovely. Send it to Kathy too. But basically what Kathy and I are both talking about is we are trying to coating light out of the sparks from the darkness. And it's all those synchronicities, all those little things we found. Both of us are working with that. And I have a feeling we're going to be working with each other over a long period of time, because we're coming at it from 2 different disciplines in 2 different ways, but we're dealing, whether you deal with it the way she sees it or whether you deal with it the way I see it, we're all going to be here when the photonic wave hits. I mean, you just give it up, guys.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Well, I mean, the crystals in the earth and the crystals in the body talk to each other. And, you're talking to the earth crystals, I'm talking to the body crystals.
And then they're all connected up through the energy that comes in from the sky.
Right. And then the crystals of the cosmos, we're part of that.
Right.
Should I read this thing about Indra's net?
Yes.
Okay, let me read, I'll read this one poem and then I'm gonna have to go because I got a session pretty soon.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes, you do.
Okay, it's called Three Vast Nets. Indra's nets. You might have heard of Indra's net. Ancient Hindu god of the sky casts a net that stretches out slash in infinitely in all directions. At every crossing of the silky threads rests a multifaceted magic jewel, perfectly reflecting every other jewel on the net. Each jewel representing an organism, a thing, a being, a thought, an emotion, ad infinitum. Any change in one is mirrored in all. The process of infinite reflection is woven into the cosmos. The fascial net, aka the organ of form, a three-dimensional web contained within a body, bounded by skin, spun with a living liquid crystalline fiber that morphs according to function. Tendons, ligaments, membranes, a highly intelligent wrapping for cells, organs, muscles, bones, in charge of opening and closing the gateways of physiology, regulating what gets in and what gets carried away. It conducts light, electricity, and other information instantaneously, faster than nerve signals. The unifying whole body communication system akin to the freeways, bridges, tunnels, country roads, and wilderness pathways we use to navigate Earth. The Internet, World Wide Web, the electronic matrix. We wish it were as intelligent as Fascia or as beautiful as Indra's jewels, but for now, it'll have to do.
Yay. Okay. I know you've got your channel coming up. I will have her back on. I will have Kathy back on if she wants to come back on.
I'll come back up.
For a lunch meeting when she's closer to having her channel up. But remember, I told you I will send out on my community page what the channel's called. It's called Heart Energy Distance Healing. She's looking for people to go over and find it on YouTube and subscribe so that she has a bunch of subscribers when she starts. That helps you. And then...
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I put up a couple of videos there. They're really very short.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, you got to have something up or they won't let you be up at all. The other thing is, I'm going to read cards live with real people. Not on YouTube or anything, but I was back at Times 10 the other day and sitting on the patio meeting a couple friends and talked to the owner, and we've set it up in such a way. His place is really clear. You don't get in unless you've been vaxxed. So I'm feeling better about that. And my guides just said, yeah, go for it. Go deal with Rob. So I'll be there on New Year's Eve.
Ooh, fun.
It's a fun time. It's a lovely party anyway. And other than that, I'm just getting my house put back together, and I want everybody to like, subscribe, share. Oh, yes, you do get to watch Jeffrey, and if you don't get enough Nancy Jean on the lunchtime thing, every day I read cards with Jeffrey, but you don't get to see the lovely me, you get to see my hands. But I'm really enjoying the readings with Jeffrey, and it's been really interesting because I take notes, and and it comes out on my channel 9 o'clock in the evening for the next day, his channel 10 o'clock Eastern time. Good. So we both go up at the same time, and it's really lovely sharing readings with someone and sharing energy like that with someone and seeing how the energy flows. Got some really interesting stuff about to happen.
Can't wait.
Kathy's YouTube channel, Bill wants it's repeated. It's called Heart Energy Distance Healing. And it's going to be a compilation of all of the things that we've talked about. She's kind of like I am. I did dabble in cards. I did cards, but I knew numerology, I knew pendulums, I knew astrology, I knew all these different things. and then all of a sudden the stones put them all together. And that's where she's putting it all together, and then the stones are going to lead me into new pathways. But I totally love and adore her work. I meet with her every day, and I'm going to let her go because she needs to go. But I'm going to tell you, I pulled a card for us out of my favorite books, the Inner Child cards, and I pulled the Guardian of Hearts, and it's a beautiful mermaid. It's like the Queen or the Knight of Hearts. Everything here is based on fairy tale characters, and it goes, this is Gabriel. When Gabriel appears in your reading, hear the call of spiritual rebirth. Watch your dreams for inspiring symbols, stories that will ask you to awaken to the higher life. Be compassionate to those individuals who seem most vulnerable and down on their luck. You can be a teacher whose words, songs, and gentle touch heal the loved ones. I thought it's a perfect card for you.
Yeah, I love that. And I like the rainbow on the wings there.
Yeah, it says you're supposed to build a rainbow bridge.
Okay, I'm all about rainbows.
Okay, that's her rainbow bridge of trust and understanding with friends all around the world. So that's where we're going to leave it because...
Yeah. Can I say one last little thing?
Sure.
When I do my distance healing sessions, I put everybody inside a rainbow MRI, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just in a tube full of rainbows. And I draw those rainbows around you with my hands. So
yeah,
there you go.
I couldn't find it earlier. What I'm going to do is I do have a link thing I will put so that you can get through their weird links. Sometimes when you go looking for things, if they don't have a lot of videos on it, they don't show it when you go searching. That happens.
I know. I had that same trouble. So anyway, just stay tuned. This is just a teaser.
Yes, it's not a teaser for me. She's going to work on me from 3 to 3:30 today. But anyway, thank you all for showing up. Thank you for your incredible patience. Thank you for your ups and downs. I have no idea how many versions of this thing are out there, but I'm going to have to go fix it up. So much for my quiet, restful afternoon. And I want to thank everyone for coming. I will probably not be back up again until next week. Oh, okay. And I will talk to you later. I'm trying to catch the last few comments because as soon as I click us off, they're gone.
Okay.
You got to get over here and end the stream. Somebody found it. And just to subscribe. Juno, just subscribe to your channel. Yay! Everybody else get over there. And I will talk to you later, guys.